In this video, we will look at how to programmatically fetch market data from Zerodha's Kite platform using Python. Now, this is a real world application of how financial data will look. So it's a huge advantage if you know how to pull the data directly from an API instead of relying on CSV or delayed data sets. Now, API is a way to pull historical live market data, and this is essential for various purposes such as quantitative analysis, backtesting strategies, building dashboards, and applying machine learning to financial time series. In this example, we will look at how Python script can be written for connecting to Zerodha Kite, and we will use instrument metadata and then retrieve the historical candlestick data. The libraries that we'll be using in this are request library to make HTTP calls to the Kite API endpoints, pandas, which is for data analysis purpose and then converting the JSON response back to data frames. Datetime library will be used to handle date ranges in historical data. String IO library will be used to treat that API CSV text response like a file so pandas can read it easily. We'll first authenticate with Zerodha Kite using an encrypted token, then download the instrument master data file, then identify the instrument token for the stocks or the index which we want. And last will be to fetch historical open, high, low, close candle data for that instrument. So we start by defining the libraries, and then we define the encrypted token which act as our authentication credential for Zerodha. Now, how do you find this ENC token? I'll explain that as well. To find the ENC token, you will have to log into your Zerodha and then right click on the mouse, go to inspect, go to networks, and then if you don't see any file here, just reload. When you reload this page, you will see few files appearing here. Go to position, scroll down to the header section. You will find in the request headers authorization label, and then for the authorization we have the ENC token. So this ENC token is copied in my editor. It starts with a capital letter and then ends with 2 equal to signs. So you copy this and paste it here. So that will be your header section for sending it to the API for authentication. Few important notes here to be taken. Hardcoding token like this is okay for learning purpose, but in production you should always store them securely as an environment variable and never commit them to any repository. Now, next step is to fetch the URL. So we'll be using api.kite.trade instruments to fetch the tokens metadata. Now, when we post this request and we convert that CSV response to a pandas data frame, the endpoint will return a instrument metadata which will contain instrument token, exchange token, trading symbols, and other details. Now, if we want to just inquire into how many columns we have received, we can just put df.info and we can receive the list of all the columns that are present in the table, and we have a total of 180,000 entries approximately. Now, why we are trying to load this metadata file is because Zerodha don't use the names of the stock, but they use something called as instrument token. So to identify that instrument token, we will have to query the data set with the name variable that is the name of the stock, and then we get the instrument token for that particular stock. Now, they have got two tokens because one is in BSE segment and the other is in National Stock Exchange segment. So that's how Zerodha identifies uniquely each tradable symbol. Next, we pass the parameters for from and to date, and if we want open interest, we can change this value from 0 to 1, but since it's an equities segment, the option interest will not be applicable, so I've kept it 0. We extract the instrument token using this query. So we're selecting the instrument token for Adani in National Stock Exchange. Then we are selecting the interval as 15 minutes and then passing all these variables to our URL list. The URL is Zerodha's normal root URL, and then we are extracting the historical data by passing the instrument token and the interval. Now, interval is basically we have defined here as 15 minutes, so that's the granularity of the data. Then we post this request and we get a response status as 200. That means the HTTPS request has passed. Now, this response is we will fetch in JSON format, and then we will pass it to our pandas data frame. At this point, the data is structured in the pandas data frame containing time series market data. We can also add the columns so that we can understand where this will define the columns here. Right now it is not defined. So the first column is timestamp, second column is open price, high price, low price, close price, volume, and since it's an equity segment, there is no open interest. So to summarize, we have authenticated via our ENC token, which we got from Zerodha Kite. We downloaded the instrument metadata, then identified the instrument tokens using the name variable from the metadata, and then pulled out the historical candle data into pandas data frame. So in the next steps, you can compute indicators like relative strength index or moving averages using this data. So if you like the video, please subscribe and see you next time.